Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, March 23rd. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. From one crisis to another. Tonight, the San Diego Convention Center is about to pivot from providing for the homeless to taking on unaccompanied children stranded at the border. KPBS's John Carroll looks at the planning that's involved.
In the midst of a pandemic,
this is not easy.
There were no conventions coming to San Diego's Convention Center. But it's been a busy place since early on in the pandemic. On April 1st of last year, the center shifted to a place to host those without shelter, a safe, warm space with the room for appropriate physical distancing to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. With the support of the City Council, Mayor Todd Gloria extended operations through the end of this month.
Since that time, we have been able to house over 4,000 San Diegans at this site, and to connect over 1,300 of those individuals with permanent or longer-term housing options.
Since the December extension, people housed at the convention center have been vaccinated. Gloria says the most recent testing shows no one living at the center is infected. Now, the 500 or so still there are moving out.
I made a commitment that we would not return these folks to Harbor Drive and wish them well.
That commitment means the people at the convention center will be sheltered and receive services at these other shelters in the city.
My phone first rang Saturday around 11 a.m.
County Board of Supervisors Chairman Nathan Fletcher says it was new Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra on the line, asking what San Diego could do to help alleviate the problem of housing children seeking asylum now held in federal detention centers. The answer was the convention center.
We want to make sure that our kids are not only safe and they get the care that they need, but that more importantly that they're reunified with their families.
The first children are slated to arrive this weekend. Their average stay is estimated at between 30 and 35 days. The cost of caring for them will be borne primarily by the federal government. They'll all have to be placed with their families, sponsors, or moved elsewhere by July, when the San Diego Convention Center is planning on once again hosting conventions. John Carroll, KPBS News.
San Diego County and Mexico are opening a vaccination site downtown at the Mexican Consulate building. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has more on the cross-border partnership.
The county and Mexican officials are building on success of a COVID-19 testing program that began last September at the consulate in downtown San Diego. That partnership offered no-cost testing for the coronavirus. The effort was heralded as a safe and accessible testing location for San Diego's Mexican and Latino communities.
We are proud of this partnership because it helps reinforce the message that our community can access public health services regardless of their immigration status or their nationality.
Vaccinations are available there 3 days a week. The consulate will follow county guidelines, meaning people will need an appointment to get a shot. San Diego County Supervisor Nora Vargas says this is part of an effort to reach out to the entire region.
We are a binational region, and as a binational region, we are interdependent. There's over 200,000 Americans, U.S. citizens, not to count like legal residents as well, who live in Tijuana for many reasons. And so they're also part of the bigger equation for us and so as we're moving forward. And so we're going to continue to advocate and continue to ensure that everyone gets a vaccination as well.
County officials want people to see the new vaccination site as a safe haven. Though any qualified person can get a shot there, they say the consulate will help them reach out to the county's Latino community. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Another coronavirus vaccination center opened today at San Diego State University. The county-run site is at the school's Viejas Arena. Some appointments will be set aside for zip codes hit hardest by the pandemic. It will eventually offer up to 1,500 daily doses, depending on the supply. Richard Harmon told us he made his appointment online yesterday and only waited about 15 minutes for his shot.
I think everybody needs to get vaccinated, and that's going to help with herd immunity. And hopefully, we won't have problems with this next year. My daughter had a grandbaby a couple of months ago and back in Atlanta, and we want to get on an airplane and go back to Atlanta. So that's a big motivation.
The center is open Tuesday through Saturday with vaccinations offered by appointment only. Vaccine eligibility recently expanded. If you want to find out if it's your turn and where to get your shot, head to kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab to find clinic locations as well as links to make an appointment. Was it misleading? A new report is raising questions over the AstraZeneca vaccine and whether encouraging results were based on outdated and incomplete information. Mary Maloney with more on what top experts are saying now.
Encouraging test results AstraZeneca released about its COVID-19 vaccine may have been based on incomplete information. The National Institutes of Health released an unusual statement Tuesday, saying an independent panel of medical experts is concerned AstraZeneca's numbers could give an incomplete view of the vaccine's efficacy results.
The data that was in the press release were somewhat outdated and might in fact be misleading a bit.
AstraZeneca stands by its research, but promises to provide more information within a couple of days.
This is really what you call an unforced error, because the fact is, this is very likely a very good vaccine.
Still, some fear the back and forth may spook the public.
And this kind of thing does, as you say, do nothing but really cast some doubt about the vaccines and maybe contribute to the hesitancy.
Health experts say this kind of transparency proves safeguards are in place, especially since AstraZeneca's vaccine isn't yet authorized for use in the United States.
The public should rest assured that nothing will get approved unless the FDA does a thorough analysis of this data.
The potential for vaccine hesitancy comes as medical experts fear the United States is on the cusp of another COVID surge if Americans let their guard down.
Given that the Europeans are surging back up, that is very clear that this is a risk that we will be doing the same thing if we don't pull back.
Mary Maloney, KPBS News.
A Colorado community is grieving today following a mass shooting at a grocery store in Boulder that killed 10 people. First-degree murder charges have been filed against the 21-year-old suspect as President Joe Biden calls for Congress to take action on gun control. Daryl Forges is in Boulder with the latest.
Another U.S. city in mourning.
I feel numb, and it's heartbreaking.
After police say a 21-year-old suspect opened fire in a Boulder, Colorado supermarket Monday afternoon, taking the lives of 10 people aged 20 to 65.
10 lives lost. 10 friends, neighbors, sisters, brothers, parents.
Boulder police not only investigating the murders, but grieving the loss of one of their own, 51-year-old officer Eric Talley.
He cared about Boulder Police Department. He cared about his family, and he was willing to die to protect others.
The suspect, Ahmad Alaliwi Alyssa, now faces 10 counts of first-degree murder. Police say the motive still unclear.
We are going to do everything in our power to make sure this suspect has a thorough trial, and we do a thorough investigation.
In Washington, flags lowered to half-staff. President Joe Biden confronting a mass shooting for the second time in less than a week.
I even hate to say it because we're saying it so often. My heart goes out.
Making an urgent appeal for federal gun reform.
I don't need to wait another minute, let alone an hour, to take common sense steps that will save the lives in the future.
While in Colorado, a community is left to put the pieces back together.
We'll get through this and we'll come out of it stronger.
In Boulder, I'm Daryl Forges.
A suspected DUI driver accused of crashing onto a downtown sidewalk, killing 3 people and injuring others, pleaded not guilty today. 71-year-old Craig Martin Voss appeared in court by video from county jail. Police say on March 15th, his station wagon veered onto the sidewalk and into a homeless encampment beneath the B Street overpass near San Diego City College. Voss is facing charges of gross vehicular manslaughter and DUI. Bail is set at $1 million, but will be up for review next Tuesday. A second military officer connected to a deadly training accident has been fired. 8 Marines and 1 sailor were killed when their amphibious assault vehicle sank off the coast of San Clemente Island last July. Colonel Christopher Bronzy was the commanding officer of the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit at the time. Today, the U.S. Marine Corps released a statement saying he has been relieved of duty. Former 10 News military reporter Bob Lawrence told our media partner what may have contributed to this decision.
There's always an examination, an investigation into what happened. What they found in this particular investigation was, quote, a substantial amount of information and data to relieve the lieutenant colonel of his command because, A, they, quote, lost confidence in his ability to command. That's not unusual.
The families of the victims have been waiting for the final report, which has not yet been released. Among them is Lance Corporal Chase Sweetwood, a Marine who grew up in San Diego and was just hours from celebrating his 19th birthday when he was killed. It was a celebration at Scripps La Jolla today as doctors released a patient who fought COVID-19 and was on life support for months. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says the man is now going home to Los Angeles.
Eduardo Moreno was released from Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla this morning after an 8-month hospital battle with COVID-19.
We're going home, and thank God.
Moreno's lungs are still recovering, and while he didn't want to speak today, his mother, Cecilia Amador, says his recovery has been an emotional roller coaster.
We didn't have any visitors, so it was very hard for me to be home and make videos with him. We were praying, and the first thing I want to say is thank God.
Her son first came to the hospital last July.
He was very critical, and they told us that he wasn't going to make it, and so from there on, he went to coma for 3 months.
Scripps Health Dr. David Scott McCall was caring for Moreno during his stay and says the virus caused advanced respiratory failure.
We decided to go for extracorporeal life support, which is a manner of taking your blood and going through a machine so as to take over his lung function.
There were multiple surgeries, and for months Moreno was entirely dependent on machines. His lungs did not heal enough to start breathing on his own until January.
He went through any number of challenges to get to that level of independence, to deal with the anxiety, the pain, to fight through, and because of that, he's a model for all of us.
Being a mom, I was just crying and home and saying, I want him home. And Dr. McCall, don't worry, he is going to make it home.
Doctors say nurses, therapists, and other ICU staff became like his extended family.
It's quite a thing to see, and without them, not possible.
He wanted to live, that's what he told me.
Moreno's mother says she was shocked and amazed to hear that her son was being released this week. She's grateful to everyone who helped him get back to 100% despite the odds being stacked against them. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Some people who've long recovered from the coronavirus are still dealing with symptoms. And coming up, how getting vaccinated may provide some relief. The Biden administration is extending the special enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act. It has now been pushed back to August 15th. The extension will give Americans more time to sign up for or change their insurance in light of the increased subsidies from the recently enacted pandemic aid package. The special open enrollment period began February 15th to help people who had lost jobs get health insurance. The city of Calexico waited months before deciding to sell land to the federal government, and it turns out it was too late. iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman has the story.
Calexico City Council members considered it a done deal. $27,000 from the U.S. government in exchange for 2.5 acres of land. There's just one problem. The federal government can't buy the property. That's because of a proclamation President Joe Biden signed in January suspending border wall construction. The land the city thought it sold is slated for a second border wall in Imperial County. And right now, part of it houses a temporary encampment for farm workers. Federal officials told iNewsSource they began asking the city for a final decision in September. It's unknown why Calexico waited months to vote. But Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno says fighting the sale could have been costly for taxpayers.
And so the federal government, so you take them to court 3.5 years later, imagine the impact on the fees, on the attorney fees and everything else, and we go back to square one.
For now, the farm worker encampment won't be impacted. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. San Diego History Center just opened an exhibit focusing on Black San Diego homesteader Nathan Harrison, a freed slave who lived in a small cabin on Palomar Mountain starting in the mid-1800s. KPBS arts and culture reporter Beth Accomando takes you on a tour of the new exhibit that shows the role archaeology played in fleshing out Harrison's life.
Seth Malios is an archaeologist, but on a certain level, he's just going through people's garbage.
It wouldn't be glamorous if I went through your garbage, but boy, is it authentic. Whenever somebody writes something down, they're aware of a future audience, and so a lot of bias goes into that. But when you take out your garbage in the morning, you're not expecting that my students and I are going to quickly jump on it and do a lot of research on it.
7 years ago, Malios started going through Nathan Harrison's garbage from more than a century ago to try and get more insights into who Harrison was. Documents reveal Harrison was brought west from Kentucky as a slave and in the late 1800s made his permanent homestead on top of Palomar Mountain. That's where Malios found Harrison's cabin along with 50,000 artifacts.
There wasn't a cabin standing there. It was waist-high weeds, rattlesnakes, scorpions, you name it, right out of Indiana Jones.
This is where garbage becomes buried treasure. San Diego History Center's new exhibit cleverly uses digital projection to put you right at the excavation to unearth artifacts.
And this is where we have a moment where you leave the artifacts in place and you just remove the dirt. And it's pretty spectacular because you will see 1,000 artifacts in one 5-foot square. And in those first squares, those 5-foot squares that we dig in, students started to uncover those little bits of daily life, a little eye remedy bottle from the late 1800s, a little tobacco tin from the early 1900s. One of the amazing things is we even started finding artifacts that were in the old photos of Harrison. It's pretty rare when you get that one-to-one link like that. And we found a little iron cross, a little pendant. That is highly personal and very specific to Nathan Harrison. But it also tells this bigger story that Catholics were persecuted against during this time. So think about this for a second. He's African American, he's married to an indigenous woman, and he's a converted Catholic. All these things put him in the crosshairs in a very dangerous situation. And so that's my response to, why are you spending so much time on just one person and just one person's garbage? Because it's such a robust story.
To tell Harrison's story, the exhibit recreates his cabin for visitors to enter. The cabin is where he became one of San Diego's most photographed residents, says Tina Zarpour, Vice President of Community Engagement, Education, and Collections at San Diego History Center.
One of the things that we're showing through this exhibit, that he was one of San Diego's first tourist destinations. People would make a trek, a 3-day journey from San Diego to Palomar Mountain to come and see him and bring provisions and different gifts and things like that.
Things that you can see at the exhibit, like a sardine tin.
These are very, very special. They look almost inconsequential, but they tell quite a big story.
A story not just about Harrison and his experiences as a freed slave overcoming great obstacles, but also a look at San Diego and race that challenges us to look deeper at our history and our future. When conceived in 2019, the exhibit was going to be a 100-year anniversary celebration of Harrison, but Malios says the Black Lives Matter movement transformed the exhibit into something deeper.
A lot of the Nathan Harrison story is about all the challenges he faced in terms of structural inequity. We're opening in 2021, and now these issues, asking that question, do ethnic minorities still face these sorts of struggles in terms of structural inequity? Do they need to put on an act to get by? Those are things that Harrison was dealing with over 100 years ago, and that's a key part of the story now.
But one part of the story is being kept a mystery.
The big punchline to this exhibit, and I'm not going to give it away because you have to come down here to see it, but it's how archaeology revealed a big secret about Harrison's identity.
So your invitation to play Indiana Jones awaits you at San Diego History Center's latest exhibit on Nathan Harrison, San Diego's first Black homesteader. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
We'll have some strong gusty winds tonight into early Wednesday, and another system comes through Thursday. That will increase the winds. That'll bring some cooler weather and some showers. But Friday, dry and a warming trend right into the weekend. We do have wind advisories, wind warnings, parts of the area overnight tonight, and we do think there'll be some stronger winds. The area shaded in purple. Those winds could gust 40 to 60 miles an hour in some of our mountains. Temperatures tonight dropping down to 33 Ramona, kind of chilly. 40 in Oceanside, El Cajon's 43, and Borrego Springs at 52. Well, not much left of our showers tonight. Looking at the future radar, don't see much happening here. Maybe a leftover shower of rain or snow in the mountains. Dry and windy and a little bit warmer here on your Wednesday. Winds diminishing after the morning hours. We'll see a high of 67 in San Diego. El Cajon hits 72. Mount Laguna at 46 degrees. Familiar pattern Thursday, strong system dives down through the interior. That will coax a pretty significant onshore flow, and we'll see a little bit of wet weather here. Rainfall amounts will be light, so a little light rain and some drizzle. And up in the mountains, about 5,500 feet, probably see anywhere from a coating to a couple more inches of snow. Looking at our extended forecast, well, the breezes Wednesday morning, a little bit wet here Thursday. And then dry and warmer. Whoa, what a nice weekend ahead here. Inland sections, partly sunny, winds die down, and then a little bit wet in the afternoon on Thursday. Look at how cool it gets. And about the weekend, we could warm up to 80 on Sunday. And here in the mountains, windy, some showers, snow levels up above 5,500 feet, but better for the weekend. And as we take you into the deserts, well, we'll cool it off on Thursday. But look at your weekend. Should be sunny and pleasant. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
If your home internet is slow, the Federal Communications Commission wants to hear about it. The agency launched a new outreach initiative on its website, and they're asking consumers for first-hand accounts about high-speed internet availability and disparities in access. It's part of the FCC's effort to improve the accuracy of its existing broadband maps. It will also inform future decisions about where service is needed. A warning tonight for those who get their COVID vaccination: do not share it on social media. Government agencies say don't take a picture of your vaccination card and put it online. A similar warning went out before, but it's still happening, and scammers are taking advantage of getting personal information.
Tell everybody you got the vaccine, but there's no need to take a picture of the card and provide all that information to anybody who can see the photo.
Scammers are also sending emails out asking for people to take a survey and then share even more personal information. And in doing so, they'll receive a benefit of some kind. But it is a scam. They advise avoiding any unsolicited emails. Some who had prolonged effects from COVID-19 say they are experiencing an unexpected benefit from the coronavirus vaccine. As Mandy Gaither explains, they're finding relief from their symptoms.
For COVID-19 long haulers plagued with prolonged symptoms like fatigue and brain fog, it's been a long road. But for some, the coronavirus vaccines are helping.
I could focus, I could see, my sinuses cleared up. It was wonderful. And also the fatigue lifted.
Rebecca Neff says she suffered from continuous COVID-19 symptoms until getting a first dose of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine.
The next day I woke up and my head was clear. I had not realized how foggy it was even on good days.
We were prepared for everything except for this.
Diana Barrett is founder of the nonprofit Survivor Corps organization, a group of about 160,000 people that links COVID survivors with information. Barrett did an informal and unscientific poll of COVID-19 long haulers and their experience with the vaccine. Of the nearly 700 people who responded, she says 39% reported their symptoms improved after the vaccine.
Anywhere from, mild symptom improval to complete resolution of symptoms. That we can't say that about anything to date.
Barrett says not everyone had the same result. 46% of long haulers polled had no change in symptoms after the vaccine, and 15% said symptoms worsened. While more research is needed, some COVID long haulers have hope.
I still feel pretty good. And so in another 2 to 3 weeks, I will hopefully get the second one.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
In February, the National Institutes of Health announced that it would spend more than $1.1 billion over 4 years to study the effects of long-term COVID-19.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Colorado mourns. A suspect is charged in the deaths of 10 people in Boulder. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, the race to replace Shirley Weber in the state assembly is underway. A closer look at who is in the running for the 79th district. And on Midday Edition, deconstructing the intersection of racism and sexism through the lens of Asian American women. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a good evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.